It's seed starting season here at Boss Grows, and so today I'm going to be starting my tomato seeds and sharing a few of my favorite tips to make sure that you have a successful start to your garden this year as well. What's up everybody, my name is Boss. I'm a gardener and a lover of all things spicy. Gonna be doing some micro dwarf tomatoes today. I love micro dwarf tomatoes because they only get to be about a foot tall. You can put them in containers. They put on a ton of usually cherry-sized fruit, sometimes grape and a little bit bigger. Beautiful looking plants. Tons and tons of tomatoes though, and they're all so sweet, great flavor. I've not had one I don't like yet. I grew, I think 10 varieties of these last year. This year I'm gonna grow everything I have, which is 16 or 17 different varieties. Plus I have a micro dwarf mix. It'll be a fun surprise that I got from Mattspeppers last year, I think. So these ones are just gonna kind of be my fill-in, make sure that I have plenty of tomatoes to harvest. Last year I grew these in some self-watering planters that sat on the ground on my deck. They did great, direct southern sunlight. Biggest problem I had was that my dog kept helping himself. So this year I'm gonna be putting them in some raised beds that I got gifted by a neighbor who was moving out of state, and I'm hoping that'll keep his nose out of them a little bit better. They're kind of right at snout level now, so it'll be a roll of the dice. But really, getting into seed starting, a couple of things. Be prepared, have the right equipment, right? So I like these 12 cell trays. It gives me a little bit more control over things as they sprout at different rates. I don't have to start everything in one big 72 cell tray and hope that it's all gonna germinate at a relatively similar pace. I can do 12 things at a time. Of course, I'm starting 20 of these trays this year, so I've got 240 plants I'm gonna be starting in the next weeks, but that's what I'm here for, right? Every year the garden grows a little bit more, I have to get creative, I have to add new space, and it's a fun learning adventure. So you'll want to start off with your media pre-moistened. In this case, I'm just using a bag of store-bought big box. I think it's Miracle Grow. I know, haters, leave your complaints in the comments. I use it, it works great, I'm not afraid of it. I think people just like to hate on things because they're not all natural sometimes, and I like science. Pre-moistened though, so it's not real wet, it's not dripping. I like these also, they have the removable clear plastic liner so you can easily see just is it moist all the way down. You don't have to guess, right? That's why I like these, easier to handle. I also put letters on them, right? A, B, C, D, and then on the sides, 1, 2, 3. I do this for a reason, that's tracking. I've got a spreadsheet already created that lists out everything here and I can put exactly what cell I planted in. That way, I don't have to put little tags in there, I don't have to draw a map. I will, but that's a whole other thing. But this way, I've got a coordinate system that shows me what's in each cell, so I don't have to guess. I know exactly, I've already put them in order, I've already marked down what tray and what cell each of these is going to go in, so that as I'm planting here, I'm just following a guide. I don't have to think about it. I just look, go, oh, Japanese Mini is gonna go in tray 15, space A1, and then I've got it there. I also have a trusty pencil. Usually I'll use the little plastic seed poking tools that come with stuff like this sometimes when you buy them in bulk. I can't find any of those, they're around here somewhere. What I like to do is I just take a pencil here and I'm gonna pre-poke 3 holes in each one of these cells. I do 3 because I always wanna make sure I get at least one good plant. Oftentimes I'll end up dropping more than 3 seeds in because they're tiny little seeds and I've got big clumsy fingers. So I'll get, maybe 2 or 3 seeds in each of these holes. It's fine. What will happen is after they sprout and they get to growing, I'm gonna pick the one that looks the best in each cell and I'm just gonna clip the others away. I'm gonna cull them. I keep my pointy pruners always available. You never know. Gonna be killing some seedlings before you know it. So the other thing about seed starting that's super important when you're doing it this time of year. I'm doing this in my basement here in Colorado. I'm at about 6,000 feet of elevation. The air is very dry, it's very thin, and we get wild temperature swings. So today it's 65 degrees outside, late February, beautiful, sunny. I've been outside in a t-shirt, it feels great. But at night, it drops down into the low 30s and 20s still. So my basement doesn't ever really get warm. It's about 60 to 63 degrees down here, ambient temperature. But in my tent, I've got a real big grow light, right? And that actually puts off quite a bit of heat. It's LED, but I'm running it right now at 70%, and it's keeping my tent at a steady 85 degrees. What that does is create an awesome environment for germinating seeds, and I don't need to worry so much about putting a heat mat in there, because after a day or 2 in there, it's gonna come up to ambient temperature in my seed trays as well, and the seeds will be in a perfect condition. It's moist, but it's not overly wet, And it's gonna be about 80 to 90 degrees is where you'll wanna be for most types of seeds that you're planting indoors right now. Peppers, tomatoes. I've got my seeds here with the first variety. This is gonna be the Japanese Mini. So I've grown almost all of these before. Some of these will be new to me. The Japanese Mini puts off a really nice reddish orange tomato, really sweet, nice firm skin, great bite, easy to snack on. These are gonna go and sell. I gotta turn this around for myself so you won't see the numbers, but otherwise I'm gonna do this wrong. Cell A1, so just drop one in each of these holes. We've got 2 for that center hole because I prefer the center one to be the best looking one, but if it's not, I don't force it, right? I will take one out of any spot. They're gonna get transplanted into another container after they get a few sets of true leaves anyhow, so not that important. And then I just take my pencil, make sure the seeds are a good 1/4 inch in, right? And then cover them up. Piece of cake. And since I've already made my spreadsheet that says, hey, here's what order I'm planting them in, and I've got my seeds stacked up in that order, I can confidently just go boom, boom, boom right down the line without having to stop and create a label and say, here's what's here. Saves me a lot of time in the long run with just a little bit of work up front. Next, I've got Fuzzy Wuzzy. This is a cool little tomato. They get to maybe a foot high. This one put on a ton for me last year, a ton of kind of orangish, reddish colored tomatoes again. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a cool one, so I'm looking forward to this again. Those will go into cell B1. And same thing, just tuck them in. So when I get down to it, and I'm not trying to talk and film and think about other things, I can fill a tray of this like this in about 10 minutes when I have a good pace going, right? So that's 12 varieties in 10 minutes. Took me a while yesterday to do 14 trays worth of peppers. Up next, we have the Red Robin Micro. Red Robin, this one is a, how do I say, like meaty little tomato. It is a cherry tomato, but it does have pretty good size to it and a dense flesh. Bullfinch is another great micro tomato. That's gonna go in D1. Every once in a while, I just like to pull up my old spreadsheet and go, am I on track? Bullfinch, D1, sweet. Still moving along, haven't screwed anything up yet. Now, the system's pretty foolproof, and that's why I made it, right? And that's another great tip. Figure out your system that works and stick with it. Get like for like equipment. Don't try and do this across a hodgepodge of stuff. I know at first it's tempting to just buy what you can grab at that time. You build up a weird collection. These are not expensive. I'll leave a link below for Amazon where I get these. You can reuse them every year. It makes everything simple. Up next, we have the Yellow Cap Micro Tomato. Micro Dwarf tomato. It's not a micro tomato. These are brilliant yellowish orange. Put on a ton of fruit for me last year. They're very, very, very juicy. Almost soft even when they're not quite ripe. So these ones you got to pick just right, but they're worth it when you eat them. Orange Russian. This one is a brilliant orange, nice and vibrant. They go from, green to a pretty slow ripening process to that orange. So for a while, you're like, hey, this half looks great, I want to eat it, but they're just not ready. Give them time. Next, we have one that I have grown the last couple of years, Blau Zimmertomate. I don't know, it's German, I do believe, but they're really cool. They grow dark fruit. They look almost black, like really dark bluish purple. They do ripen to this nice blush between red and dark purple. Great looking fruit. They're bigger too when they're fully grown. They're more of, I guess, a plum tomato. I don't know if that's a thing, but they're great tasting also, right? So I love to use these in sauces. Up next, we have Gelbe. Gelbe, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. I don't remember what these ones were. I think they were an orange one too, but I'd have to go back and Google it. Next, we have Dwarf Berry. This is a new one to me. Got it from Mattspeppers, who occasionally has a selection of tomatoes and micro dwarf tomatoes as well. So now moving into some micro dwarfs that I got from Forgotten Heirlooms. Ken there has an awesome selection of micro dwarfs, and he gets new stuff every year, grows or creates. I'm not sure if he does some of the crossing or if these are all things that he's acquired and grown, but man, good stuff, great guy. Highly recommend him when you're shopping for micro dwarf tomato seeds. This one is Heartbreaker's Twiggy Orange. New to me this year, I'm excited to grow it. I love orange tomatoes. And as I struggle with my big thumbs here to open these tiny little plastic bags, it reminds me of the last tip that I want to just share with everybody here today. patience as you're planting seeds, right? It takes time. Don't rush through this part of the process because you don't want to accidentally mislabel something or spill something. Knocking over your tray of seeds you just planted is insanely disheartening. Ask me how I know. But also be patient after you have planted your seeds. Many of these, like I said, will take several weeks to sprout. And you're going to give up hope. You're going to say, what is wrong, seed? I've put you in a warm, moist environment, some nice seed starting mix, and you haven't sprouted yet. What are you doing? Be patient. They'll show up. If they're good seeds, they'll pop, right? All it takes is the right conditions, and those conditions really are temperature and moisture. So I've got two more varieties. Two more varieties that are going to fit in this tray. That's going to be Micro Dwarf House from Forgotten Heirlooms and Micro Dwarf Balcony Elo. Both are new to me this year. I'm excited. House looks like a nice red one. The Balcony Elo looks like brilliant yellow with a little bit of maybe a pointy bottom. Could be neat. I'm going to get these planted, but I thought real quick I would run you through everything else since I've got multiple trays and you're probably bored by now. If you are still here, thanks for watching. Go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps me out. If you want to get a cool shirt like this, I'll leave a link below. That also would help me out. Micro Dwarf Lily Lisa. I've grown these the last few years. These put on a pretty good sized red cherry tomato that is delicious. And then I have a few from Baker Creek, another great place to get Micro Dwarf tomatoes. So here I have, what is this, Micro Tom. It's a pretty standard little red cherry tomato, good flavor. They don't get even as big as some of my others. This one actually just kind of grew sideways for me last year and put on a big string of beautiful cherry tomatoes. Then we have the Orange Hat. Again, a nice orange. These were actually a little bit more yellow than orange for me, and you can kind of see that in the picture, but they really looked pretty yellow last year. Delicious, plump little cherry tomatoes, almost grape tomato size. Highly enjoy those. Recommend anybody grow those as well. And then finally, the Mini Bell. So this is actually, I think, just a dwarf tomato, not a micro dwarf. I had one last year that was about 2 foot tall, put on a ton of really good tomatoes, about this big. Really tasty, super juicy, nice and meaty. Not too sweet, not too tomato-y flavored. I don't know how else to explain it. Nice and balanced, easy, great in salads or sliced up even on sandwiches. And then last but not least, I'm gonna do several cells of this Micro Dwarf mix just to see what else I can get, help supplement my tomato supply. So hopefully you've already started planting your seeds if you have a last frost date around early May. If it's a little bit later, you should be starting right about now or in the next week or so. And just keep those things in mind, right? It's really important to have a plan, have the right equipment, and know what you're doing before you start so that all you're doing is following your list, planting it where you said you're going to plant it, and you can always refer back to what's in what cell. Make sure that you have the right temperature and the right moisture. Too wet means you have standing water, it's sopping. If you push down on the surface, it puddles up. That's too wet. Too dry means it looks dry. That's why I like these containers with the clear sides. It's really easy to see just how moist is my media all the way down to the bottom. It's also real handy when they start growing roots. You can see exactly when, like, hey, they're getting to the end, they're stressing, I need to pot them up. But that right temperature too, between 80 and 90 degrees or so for most nightshades, tomatoes, peppers, that kind of thing. You can use a heat mat if that's what's easiest for you. Just get one that has a thermostat so you don't overcook the things. I just like to use the heat that is put off by the light in my tent. Make sure everything stays nice and warm. I can keep it in ambient 85 to 90 in there, no problem, just depending on how intense I set the light to. And then be patient. It's gonna take time. I've had seeds in soil for anywhere from 24 to 48 hours right now. And I haven't gone to check on them yet because nothing's going to sprout that fast. So I'm not worried about it yet. I'll start looking probably in about day 5 or 6, expecting to see a few sprouts. Some of those will take weeks. I guarantee you there will be things that come up in week 2 or 3, maybe even week 4. I've had several that came up. Last year, my dang neem fedora took 32 days, I think it was. It happens. So be patient. But get your seeds planted, get your plans together, and get ready to have an awesome garden this year. I will be back very soon. I've got a bunch of stuff kicking off, including my themed pepper grow for 2024, which is going to be announced very soon. Remember, plants help us grow. Butterfingers.